No. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Committee, today we have a hearing on House Bill 2790, transferring registration requirements of PEOs from the Commissioner of Insurance. That should be the Secretary of State. I know it reads Labor, but that has been corrected. It's corrected in the bill. It's not you, my committee assistant. It is corrected in the bill, but that is Secretary of State. So we will have an overview of the bill by our reviser, Charles.
Thank you, Madam. Make some changes with respect to the regulation of professional employer organizations. These are organizations, as I'm sure the committee is aware, that offer services to businesses, human resource type services, and sort of function as actually the legal employer of the employees. They operate under a registration type of regulatory scheme, and that has been handled by the Commissioner of Insurance. So this bill does really two things, major things. One is that it as you mentioned, it changes that the oversight and the registration functions from the Commissioner of Insurance to the Secretary of State. This was originally, as introduced, that would have been effective, as all regular normal bills are on July 1st, 2024. It was changed by the House Committee to that part of the bill to be effective March 1st, 2025. And I think there were some concerns with regards to implementation of that behind that change. And then the second thing that the bill does is that if you turn to page 8, there is a provision on section 5, lines 32 through 39, that basically state that, just to read the language there, a fully insured welfare benefit plan offered by a professional employer organization to its employees and covered employees shall be treated under the laws of Kansas as a single employer welfare benefit plan. That section is effective on July 1st, 2024, and the rest of the bill, as I stated, with respect to the change of regulatory oversight, the registration provisions is effective March 1st, 2025. So that's what the bill does.
Questions for our reviser? Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. What is a welfare benefit plan? Medicaid?
No, I don't believe so, and I would probably defer really that more to the conferees. As I understand it, and that's from the testimony that was submitted by the National Organization of Professional Employer Organizations, that's the way Kansas has been doing this. It's a benefit that they can offer employees for their customers, and I really can't say much beyond that, except that it just makes it clear that it's going to be treated as a single employer, that is, I guess, their customer welfare benefit plan, as opposed to any alternative. But I understand that, again, from the testimony, that this is not actually a change. But I can't state that myself. I haven't looked into the insurance law on it.
Other questions? Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I had the same question as Senator Schallenberger did, so that's one down. Is there anything magical, and if you do not know, that's fine. I'll ask this, then you can just say, well, we'll let the conferees address it. Anything magical, or why was March 1, 2025 chosen versus January 1 or something like that?
Yeah, and that's something I can speak to a little better than the insurance question. So, as I indicated, I think there was testimony in the House side and concerns about the implementation, and I think some of the conferees, and they might discuss this, wanted an implementation date that perhaps was over a period of time or quite a bit into the future. And the March 1st date, as a practical matter, there are a couple of reasons behind that. One is that it's on the edge of when it could be published in the statute books. March 1st of next year, that's pretty far out, but, it probably could be published as opposed to, going into the session laws, right, and not being in the statute books. The other thing is that March 1st is a date that if for some reason the transfer cannot be done by then, the parties could come back next year and ask for a different date, right? So they offer some flexibility while still maintaining a single date, right? I mean, one of the concerns I think of an extended date, way down the line, just as a practical matter, it becomes a little bit unwieldy, But the other thing is from a legal aspect, if you're going to, if the legislature is going to, offer, for example, just a very extended period of time that something can happen, or a period, wait, there potentially, and I'm not saying that there is, but it does raise a question. Well, is that does that raise a delegation of improper delegation of authority issue? If the legislature is just going to sort of provide a discretionary not be clear about when something is supposed to happen. And in this case, an executive branch agency, who's supposed to take care of this, if the legislature just allows that to sort of be extended indefinitely, then there could be a kind of a delegation issue about it.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Senator Reddy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just for clarification, the bill that's presented in front of us, is that the one that was passed in the House, 114-1? Is this the current format? Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Charles. We will start with proponent testimony. We have, and please correct me if I do not pronounce your name correctly. I apologize in advance. Bill Manis, President and CEO for Syndio. Welcome to committee.
Thank you. Ms. Chairwoman and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm here in support of House Bill 2790 and ask for your support on the bill. My name is Bill Manis. I am the President and CEO of Syndio Outsourcing, headquartered in Wichita. I serve as the Secretary-Treasurer of the National Association of Professional Employer Organizations, or NAPIO as we call it. I also serve as the chairman of ESAC, which is the Employer Services Assurance Corporation, and ESAC is an independent assurance organization. It is important that if this transaction is to occur, the Kansas Secretary of State has the authority to engage ESAC as a vendor, and this bill accomplishes that purpose. ESAC has been working with the Department of Insurance since the passage of the PEO Act a decade ago to provide financial assurance and accreditation services for PEOs operating in Kansas. As an aside, both Eric and I, who will also be testifying, are both members of ESAC and accredited. And there are over 500 PEOs in America, but only 42 of them are ESAC accredited, and both of us are that. NAPIO and ESAC both support the legislation before you and ask for your support as well. Thank you again, Ms. Chairwoman and members of the committee, for allowing me to speak today in support of House Bill 2790. And I'd answer any questions you might have. I could probably help you with the insurance question. Welfare benefit plans are what we commonly know as health insurance. There are retirement benefit plans and there are welfare benefit plans. Welfare benefit plans are health insurance, dental insurance, Section 125 type of plans. So our codification of making us the one employer allows us to offer a plan to all of our clients as one employer. And that's what this clarification, it's something we've been in practice doing for over a decade. This is actually clarifying what the statute says. So I'd answer any other question you might have.
Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So why is it not called a health care benefit plan?
Well, that's really more of an ERISA issue. which is a federal regulation that governs welfare benefit plans. So we're really in compliance, in essence, with what the federal laws are that govern welfare benefit plans, and this codification kind of puts it in alignment with that. But that's what they call health insurance plans. All welfare benefit plans are under that umbrella, but it covers all of the plans, not just health insurance. Does that answer your question?
Well, it does. I appreciate that, but the word welfare to most of us means something different.
I agree 100%. I didn't define what these things were. We're trying to make it to where when they talk about ERISA issues, they define it as welfare benefit plans. So we are trying to put that in alignment with that, so it falls under that language.
Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I thank you for being here today. So a PEO and a NAPEO, they actually, the employee works for them. Is that legally how it works?
Yes.
Are these companies that I go and I want to hire somebody to do my bookkeeping, or I want to hire somebody to do all my accounting, and you send somebody in, or somebody sends somebody in?
Right. What's different about our model is that was created 35 years ago, which is now codified in the state of Kansas in the PEO Act, is that we act as what is called a co-employer. The administrative employer is our firm, in which we are responsible for all things that you are required to do as an employer, which would be payroll, paying taxes, reporting taxes, benefits, administration and provision, workers' compensation, both the policy and the administration of those, and pretty much all the human resource compliance things that they are required to do. The client employer is the worksite employer, which means that they are in charge of managing the people. So in essence, what we're doing is putting everybody under our umbrella for the purposes of employment, but then they're responsible for running their business and taking care of it. Nobody goes into business to be an employer. That's just.
Well, I hire you, and you do all that work, or your company does all, and there may be some of your employees in my office. Is that correct?
Could be. All of my internal.
I'm only responsible for a contract agreement with you, and you pay the help, and you pay the taxes, and you pay.
That's correct. You're still responsible for managing the day-to-day affairs of all employees. This is not like a temp staffing thing where you might get a few people in that are under mine, but you manage them. This is pretty much an all-inclusive agreement between us and the client that we manage all of these affairs for all of the employees that work for that client. But they manage the business and take care of that.
And one last question. Why are you wanting to move from insurance to Secretary of State?
Well, I think it's because, frankly, when we passed the bill 10 years ago, and I was involved in getting that passage, I've been in business for 22 years, so I've been around all of this. The Department of Insurance was very concerned about how we administrated benefits and workers' compensation specifically, and they wanted to have some oversight on that. Now that we've been doing it for 10 years, they realize that they really don't need to be the oversight because we're in a registration bill, not a license bill. So therefore, I think they realize that it's really more under the purveyance of what the Secretary of State does than what they do.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Manus? Seeing none, thank you so much for being here. Next, we have Erica Brune, and she's got a lot of title there, so I'll let her introduce herself. Welcome to committee, Erica.
Thank you, Mrs. Chairwoman and members of the committee. Appreciate the opportunity to testify today. I am also here in support of House Bill 2790 and ask for your support on the bill. My name is Erica Brune, and I am the CEO of Lever One PEO, which is headquartered in Overland Park, Kansas. I serve as the Leadership Council Chair for the Heartlands region for the National Association of PEOs, or NAPEO. By way of background, PEOs provide human resource services to small and mid-sized businesses, paying wages and taxes under the PEO's EIN, offering workers' compensation and risk management services, and providing compliance assistance with employment-related rules and regulations. PEOs have been operating and sponsoring single employer health plans for decades, pre- and post-ACA in Kansas. They provide worksite employees of small and mid-sized businesses with access to Fortune 500 level benefits they would not otherwise have been able to access. The bill before you today updates the Kansas PEO Act to codify our existing practices that authorize PEOs to sponsor fully insured benefits as a single employer. This is consistent with the approach taken by other states that have clarified within their respective PEO statutes that a PEO is deemed an employer for purposes of sponsoring welfare benefit plans for its covered employees, and that such plans are treated for purposes of state law as a single employer welfare benefit plan. This modest legislation would simply restate and codify our practice that has been in place in Kansas for years, as well as provide parity with other states that have enacted statutory frameworks regulating PEOs. Similar statutes can be found in Colorado, Missouri, Nebraska, and Oklahoma. Thank you again, Mrs. Chairwoman and members of the committee, for allowing me to speak today in support of House Bill 2790.
Thank you. Questions for Erica? Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I could have asked the previous conferee, but he's a man, and I'm told men are not as smart as women, so I thought I would ask you.
I appreciate that.
My wife's the one that said that, by the way. But in any event, the March 1st date, you heard me ask our reviser, do you know why that date was selected? Is there anything magical? Would it be a hindrance if it was January 1, for example?
As far as the PEO perspective or the National Association of PEOs, we have no preference on what date is selected. My understanding is that date was selected to give the Secretary of State's office enough time to prepare to receive our registration and oversight for our industry.
Okay, well, maybe we'll find out from the Secretary of State's office why they feel they need that additional time, but
Yes.
thank you for your
You're
answer.
welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you so much for being here. Committee, next we have Clay Barker, Deputy Secretary of State from the Office of the Secretary of State. Welcome, Mr. Barker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Clay Barker, General Counsel, Kansas Secretary of State, testifying here in support of HB 2790. The genesis of this bill was when Commissioner Schmidt approached Secretary Schwab and asked if our office would be willing to take on this filing responsibility, and I believe she felt it wasn't a good fit for the insurance commissioner. It was a better fit for the secretary because we're essentially the filing cabinet for a lot of state filings. We have in-house expertise on that. What this change would do from our perspective is move the responsibility for filing these 250 or so filings a year to our office. The regulation authority would move, and the only thing that regulations cover is the specifics of the filing, and the fee fund control would move to our office. Why we believe this is a better fit, and we agree with Commissioner Schmidt, is our office, our business services office, which is half what the Secretary of State does, which doesn't get in the media much, has a lot of expertise on taking filing and infrastructure to do that. We believe it will save the PEOs money because it will cost less. We can probably reduce the filing fees, and they would get excellent customer service because that's what our business services does. The reason we need the extra time, Senator Peck and anyone else that asked, is we do all our IT development in-house, and the legislature just hired away the chair of our IT group because he was so good. But Secretary Schwab has set a lot of priorities for the IT group to either modernize or create new systems, and those include business filings for non-Kansas entities, getting our law book and trademark filings off the 1980s system, which most of our business services just came off after a 5-year project, candidate and lobbyist filing updates and UCC, so this would be pushed back in the priority list. And we've already worked with the insurance commissioner that if we need even more time, we can work out a memorandum of understanding between us. Because what we don't want to have is we want a seamless transition for the customers, that they just go from filing from one agency to the other and don't see any bumps in there. We want to make sure that that transition is done very well. If this was a new filing, we could perhaps say file it in paper until we build out the infrastructure. And last, the infrastructure does need both a public filing component, and some of the files are non-public. They're the financial information for the PEOs. So we have to make sure our filing system is cyber secure on that front. And Madam Chair, I'll stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Any questions for Mr. Barker? Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I guess I'm sort of stuck on this date. I heard you say something about you could have a move with the kid and about the timing, but it would still have to be accomplished by March 1st, correct? If we put it in statute.
Senator, the way we've understood it, and with some also discussions with the revisor, is the state would set the law about when the transfer would occur, and we could either come back and ask for an extension, or we could have a memorandum of understanding that certain responsibilities would still rest with the insurance commissioner, even though by law they've moved it to the Secretary of State. And I don't quite understand all the legal details of that. We have to work it out. But our one concern was we want to have this system ready for the customer and not have a halfway done system that causes filings to fall through the cracks.
So the March 1st would not necessarily be the date that the customer, as you call them, would be going from KID to SOS.
Correct, Senator. It may not be the date that we would be ready to receive the filings, in which case the insurance commissioner would probably still receive them, but we'd be legally responsible for them. And we'd have to work out some way between us to handle that.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you so much, Clay. Next, we have Eric Turek, Director of Government and Public Affairs from the Kansas Department of Insurance. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Eric Turek with the Kansas Insurance Department. I think a lot on this bill has already been said, so I won't restate too much. But I do want to explain that at the Insurance Department, concerning the registration of PEOs, we require audited financial statements and basic business information. And I will say that and those applications, for PEOs, their renewals are on an annual basis. And really, at the insurance department, our prime objective is to regulate the securities and insurance industries. And we do believe that the registrations of PEOs and transferring that authority to the Secretary of State's office, we think that they would be benefited from that transfer. As the conferee from the Secretary of State's office stated, they already have they are the one-stop shop for business registrations. And so we have been in communication with the National Association and the Secretary of State's office since last year, and not to harp too much on the implementation date, but whether it be, we are in total agreement with the Secretary's office that we would like to see a seamless transition. So we, if we need to come back to the legislature and request an extension, if that's something that the legislature would want codified in statute, we're totally okay with that, whatever. We just want to ensure that the transition is seamless.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you so much. There's a benefit to going last, isn't there? All the questions have been kind of sorted through. So, committee, that is the end of our proponent testimony. There are no neutral or opponents that we received testimony for. I will draw your attention to the written proponent testimony for the NAPIO. And that concludes our business for today. I will let the committee know tomorrow we are hearing House Bill 2570, which is the unemployment insurance bill, which will be a substantial bill. We kind of dipped our toe into that water with the joint hearing with the House earlier. I'm sure we all absorbed all of that information and have no questions, but I felt there were some amendments, there were some changes. I felt like it was in the best interest that we had another hearing to get the details of that bill and get up to speed on that, and that will be tomorrow. So we will see you tomorrow. And with that, we are adjourned.